We are going to talk about the names for things. And I'm doing this because on my front porch, there's a lizard, a little green lizard that my wife and I call Gecko. Now, we know its technical name is Anole, but it got me to thinking about all the other things through the years that people call one thing just because out of habit. So I did a little research, and for decades, I'm talking 60, 70 years, people called a pipe wrench a Stilson wrench. And the reason is because in 1869, an engineer by the name of Daniel Stilson was working for a manufacturing company that made tools called Warmont Manufacturing Company. And he designed a type of pipe wrench that had serrated jaws. And it was called, for decades, it was called a Stilson wrench. And they held a patent, so they were the only ones that could make that pipe wrench in that fashion, and it was called a Stilson wrench for decades, even as a little boy up into an adult. When people said, hey, hand me that Stilson wrench, you knew they wanted you to hand them the pipe wrench. Now, the patent is expired, and so many other companies make them. This is a huge 24-inch aluminum pipe wrench made by the Vice Grip Company. This is a rigid pipe wrench made by the, Rigid Company. This is a Vice Grip made by the Vice Grip Company. These two aren't, everybody calls these Vice Grips, but they also make pipe wrenches and a bunch of other things. There's a company called Channel Lock. And if anybody says, hey, hand me that Channel Lock, you know they mean this. Now, this is made by Cobalt. It's not made by Channel Lock, but these are channel locks. This is an adjustable wrench, or in Great Britain, they call it a spanner wrench, but it's made by the Channel Lock Company. What I'm getting at is, if I say Gecko, referring to the little green lizard on our front porch, I know it's an Anole. I just use the word Gecko. It's just like saying, hand me channel locks. Well, you could mean this, since it's made by Channel Lock. That's not a channel lock, though, is it? Let's talk about a skill saw. For about the same time, 60 or 70 years, anybody who was using a circular saw called it a skill saw, because there's a company called the Skill Saw Incorporated, and I believe it was 1869, 1870. A guy invented a worm-driven circular saw, and it was this, and he worked for the Skill Company. So for the next 60 or 70 years, anybody who was using a saw like this called it a skill saw, even though it may not have here. This is one of the best circular saws I've ever owned. I had it for years, which really is kind of interesting. I'll tell you a little bit more about that. Bosch. This is a great. See, I almost said skill saw. When you've gone your whole life saying skill saw, it's hard not to mean circular saw, or you expect people to automatically know you mean circular saw when you say skill saw. And the Bosch company actually bought Skill Company out in the 90s, like 92. And then since then, another company has bought Bosch and Skill. And Skill now, the Skill Tool Company is what they're called now, and they operate as a separate entity from whoever bought them after Bosch did. So that's what I'm saying. For years, there was only one circular saw because it was patented and it was made by the Skill Company, so everybody called it a skill saw. For years, there was only one pipe wrench, and I mean decades until the patent ran out, and I think it was 75 years. One company made pipe wrenches, and it was called a Stilson Company. So people called it a Stilson wrench. So when somebody said, hand me a Stilson wrench, you knew they wanted you to hand them the pipe wrench. If somebody hands you, or says, hey, hand me that Vice Grip, you know they mean this. But Vice Grip also makes pipe wrenches. And circular saws are made by everybody now, not just by Skill. Channel locks don't just make channel locks that make adjustable wrenches, are also called spanner wrenches. And I was just thinking about, now I'm not, a couple of people recently have told me that they're not geckos, they're anoles. Okay, I know they're anoles. Come on, don't be pedantic. I say gecko for the same reason I said skill saw, and still occasionally call them skill saws and not circular saws. For the same reason I say Stilson wrench when I mean pipe wrench. For the same reason I say vice grip or channel locks. It's all the same thing. And if you're the kind of person that takes pleasure out of correcting people, you got problems. You got a very boring life, uninteresting life. If you can waste your time correcting people over a simple word like gecko for an anole. I'm just saying. I just thought it was interesting that when I got to thinking about it this morning, I'm not mad or nothing, and I'm not singling anybody out. Maybe you're like some lizard expert, and sort of if somebody calls an anole a gecko, it really bothers you. Who knows? That might be the truth, but I think it's just kind of weird that you should look up the word pedantic, because that fits this. And anyway, that's all I got to say about that. I'm going to the shop. Also sitting here thinking how scary, I don't know if the word is scary, but as I've gotten older, let me back up. I used to be massively strong. I mean, there's nothing I couldn't lift up. My wife saw me lift a riding lawnmower up by myself and put it in the back of a pickup truck, and I did. It was probably 550 pounds. And I lifted it up and put it in the back of a pickup truck with ease. And I used to I enjoyed being strong, I felt good about my strength. And I used to have bigger shoulders and a bigger chest, and it's all migrated south. And this last year, man, you would not believe how much muscle and strength and stamina I have lost from all the sitting around I've done because I felt so bad. And, I'm still not 100%. I am shaky and weak, and I am forcing myself to do stuff. And it's really scary watching yourself disintegrate, especially when you've been really strong your whole life. And scary, when I say scary, I mean there used to be no doubt in my mind that I could defend myself against pretty much anybody because of my strength, and I have knocked people out before with one punch and been in some fights in my life, and I've always been a strong contender. And I'm not anymore. I carry my gun everywhere because there's no way I could fight my way out of a situation. I'm that weak. And it's scary. It's scary knowing that you can't kick somebody's ass because you just don't have the strength anymore. And it's scary knowing that in order to save my life or my wife's life, I now have to carry a gun and take a whole lot more crap than I would ever take in order to get out of a situation and not have to shoot somebody or get into a fight. It's just something that I've noticed as I've gotten older, especially this last year. And I was strong right up to I started getting sick a year ago. February was a year. So it's been February, March, April. Yeah, year and a couple of months. And I'm not 100%. I'm on steroids, and I'm taking about 12 different medicines right now. And if it wasn't for those medicines, I wouldn't be out here in the shop. And it's just a sad reality of getting older. Some guys can go a lot longer before they start losing that much muscle. And I probably would have if I hadn't gotten sick. And it's just something that's hard to admit to yourself now, that you're not the strong bull that you once were. I mean, I still got some arm muscles, but nothing like I used to have. Okay, I'm going to show you my arm muscle, okay? I'm 63 years old. That's not bad for 63, but I used to be a lot bigger than that. And I used to have no fear, and now I have fears of getting into situations that I can't punch my way out of. And it's kind of I'm saying scary, but it's a whole bunch of words that go along with scary. Concerning, you have, you know, like a change in your whole mindset that you have to, you can't tell people, hey, quit doing that to me or whatever. You just have to take shit now and get out of there. And you have to take shit right up until the point where, you know, you have to shoot somebody, because that's the only option I have now. Not fighting, shooting. And so, consequently, I'm not a fool. I mean, I wouldn't do that unless my life was endangered. But there's a whole lot of BS you got to take up until your life being in danger, you know. Anyway, and about the gecko anole thing, I wasn't singling anybody out. I've had two people recently, politely, you know, mention that they were anoles. But I've had some real crackpots come around and go nuts because I called an anole a gecko. That's weird. That you would be that concerned. This is a knife I'm working on for redneck rubber. It's a mini skinner, and I will have this heat treated and tempered today, Sunday, and tomorrow, Monday, is my wife has a doctor's appointment, and it's all the way over in Bossier City, so it's going to be kind of a all-day thing. And then Tuesday, we're going to Outback and eat steak for my birthday. I'll be 63 on Tuesday. Yeah, I used to have to not ask anybody for help lifting things or holding a board up. I mean, I still figure out ways to do things by myself without asking for help, like, you know, building things. But even my eyesight, it's just, I'm having to use magnifying glasses to look at the knives I'm working on, because even with glasses, my eyesight's not good enough to see scratches that I'm leaving. It's really aggravating getting old and losing all the stuff you've relied on your whole life, depended on to get through life, you know, strength, eyesight. And I'll tell you what else, my driving. I've slowed way down my driving and stay away from people because my reflexes have slowed so much that I have to allow more space between me and other people. I don't know if it's because I was sick for a year, but I've noticed so many drastic, noticeable changes in me just in the last year. I felt good right up until I was 61. I mean, I could still lift up very heavy things, but about 62, when I started getting sick, is when I noticed. All right, I'm going to put these in my drum sander. This is my drum sander here, and I wrap it around there, and I get into areas that I can't hand sand in. So I'm fixing to do that now, and then I'm moving up to 400, and this will get heat treated. So see you in a bit. All right, Tony, we're fixing to go get this in the forge and get it heat treated and get it in the oven for tempering. But first, I'm going to go ahead and drill the holes and get the hand. You know what? I'm not going to do that because I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's possible that these holes could slightly change from heating in the forge and the tempering. So I'm not going to make the handles until I get this out of the tempering oven and clean back up, and then I don't want to jump the gun. All right, let's go get this thing. Let's go get it red. See you in a couple hours. Okay, remember when I was telling you about the Stilson company being made a pipe wrench, and the company was called Walworth? Well, guess what? I knew I had one, and I just found it. Here is a Walworth wrench. Genuine Stilson, okay? So for 60 or 70 years, they were called Stilson wrenches. And it took a generation and a half to call pipe wrenches instead of Stilson wrenches. And it's the same thing with skill saws. It took a generation and a half for people to stop saying, I need a new skill saw, because Skill was the only person that made those circular saws. And Stilson was the only people that made this pipe wrench. This is a very old pipe wrench, and I picked it up at a yard sale for like $3. And I didn't buy it because I needed more pipe wrenches. I bought it because it said Stilson, and you know, I like tools. That's just something I like. I like tools, and I like old tools better. So, and that's what I was getting at with somebody saying gecko. Gecko is just like it's just like saying Stilson wrench. It just covers the pipe wrench. Skill saw just covers the circular saw. When somebody says skill saw, you know they mean circular saw. And it's just like the word gecko. If I say gecko, it just covers them little green lizards. Okay, we're gonna go home for 2 hours, okay? And then we'll come back and we'll put the handles on Redneck Prepper's knife. He's already paid me for it. And I regret to say, but I've already spent part of that money on some Patriot Guard stuff. My name, which is BC, goes on my vest, and another Patriot Guard patch that goes on the back of my vest. Actually, it's going to go on the front of my vest. So, okay, let's go home for a bit. All right, we're out of the forge, out of the tempering oven. Got it cleaned up, and I got the handles roughly shaped. Now we're fixing to go buff the nose of these and blend these sand lines in. I'll show you what I got when we get back. The next step after that is epoxying the handles on and leaving them overnight. So that's what the handle's going to look like, that all buffed up. It looks like glass. I just love this Dynalux. And this is my satin finish. Still got some schmutz on it. I gotta take some acetone and clean the whole knife up. Okay, let me get to work. Acetone and everything, and then we epoxy them and clamp. And I'm using spring clamps now because I just think a constant pressure is better than the clamps I've been using, which is these little clamps here. So, I think, I tell you what, I can barely, with my right hand, I can do this, but I can't do that with my left hand. So, alrighty, I'll show you one last shot of this all clamped up, and we'll see you Wednesday, because Monday is my wife's doctor appointment over in the big Bossier City. Tuesday is my birthday, and we're fixing to go to Outback Steakhouse. I've been wanting a ribeye for a very long time. And then Wednesday I'll be back out here and get these knives, this handle all shaped up. We'll be back. There it is. Now, I've got a couple of sharp fingers that I'm going to turn around and sand a little bit. I want to get that, if I can get those two sharp fingers up to 400, that'd be a nice start, because I'm going to go to 800 on them, and they're going to be mirror polished. All right. So, hope nobody was offended by my comparison to people calling skill saws, and Stilson wrenches to people using the word gecko. I wasn't, you know, there's no person in particular. It's just that I have had a couple of loons get upset that I use the word gecko. Those would be the same people that would, that was my point. They would be the same people that would get upset if you said skill saw It's not a skill saw, it's a circular saw. You know what I mean. We've all encountered them. And I've had them over the years mention that, it's not a gecko, it's an anole. Okay, it's an anole. I get it. So, see you Wednesday.